Hello, once again. So today we're going to be working on solving one-step equations. Before we get going with that, you're going to need a pencil, notes 00, which is your unit 2 vocabulary, and notes 11, which is our one-step equations with addition and subtraction notes. Let's start briefly with some vocabulary. So an equation is a number sentence with an equal sign. What we have been working on was expressions where we were just simplifying, but now we can actually solve because we can get an answer. Inverse operations undo one another. The inverse of addition is subtraction, and the inverse operation of multiplication is division. Go ahead and write down these definitions and examples on your Unit 2 vocabulary page. So let's talk about solving equations now. These are notes 11. If you haven't put an 11 in the upper right-hand corner, go ahead and do so now. So let's go through some examples. Inverse means opposite. Inverse operations undo one another. The inverse operation of addition is subtraction. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So to keep you organized, the first thing we're going to do when solving an equation is to draw a straight line down the middle of the equal sign. That will help you keep your balance clear. And what you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other, which is called the addition-subtraction property of equality. So our job in solving one-step equations is to solve for the variable by getting it alone on one side of the equal sign. Now, I know a lot of you could probably predict a lot of solutions in your head, but as we get more complicated with multi-step equations with variables on both sides, you're going to want to have an inverse operations method to solve. So that's what we're going to be practicing today. So we're going to start by placing our finger on the variable and undoing the operation we see by adding its inverse. So for example, solve for x. So we're going to place our finger over the x. And we see that the 7 is on the same side. So we have to get rid of the 7 and move it to the opposite side. So we're going to, what's the inverse of positive 7? Negative 7. So we're going to do that on both sides. So 7 minus 7 is 0. And we're going to bring down the x on the left side. The equal sign will stay on the line. And then we have 30 minus 7, which is 23. So our solution is x equals 23. Go ahead and label this as your solution. To check our answer, we take our original equation, and we're going to just substitute using parentheses the value that we got. And we're going to actually check it. 7 plus 23 is 30, and 30 equals 30, so our solution checks out. Let's try a few. So w plus 11 equals negative 5. Line down our equal sign. Take your finger and cover up the variable. Actually do it. So if I'm covering it up with my finger, I see plus 11. So that's what I have to use the inverse to undo. So we have positive 11, so we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. Now the variable is going to come down. Positive 11 and negative 11 are additive inverses, so their sum is 0. Equal sign stays on the line. Negative 5 minus 11, same sign, add and keep the sign. So we have negative 16. Again, this is called our solution. To do the check, we're going to rewrite the original, w plus 11 equals negative 5. We're going to substitute our solution, and then we're going to check. Negative 16 plus 11. Well, that's different signs, so subtract and keep the sign of the higher number, and that gets me negative 5. Since negative 5 equals negative 5, our solution was correct. Let's try again. Take a look at number 2. First thing, line down our equal sign. Cover up the variable with your finger. What's on the same side of the equal sign? The positive 2. What's the inverse of positive 2? Negative 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Well, 12 minus 2 is 10. Equal sign stays on the line. Our variable will come down, and our additive inverses will cancel out. 10 equals n is our solution. Let's do a quick check. So we have 12 equals n plus 2. So we're going to substitute the value of our solution, and then we're actually going to check it. What is 10 plus 2? It's 12. So that checks out. Let's take a look at example 3. line down the middle of your equal sign, cover up the variable term. What's the sign on the 8? Is it positive or negative? It's positive. So what's the inverse? Negative. So I'm going to subtract that 8 from both sides. -3 minus 8 is the same sign. Add and keep the sign. Our additive inverses cancel out. And our variable comes down. Once again, we have our solution. And we're ready to do our check. Now, a lot of students think, well, why do I have to keep doing the check? Well, let's say on this problem here, you covered up the variable and you decided to add 8 to both sides. And you got 5 equals k, which we know is wrong. If we actually substituted that value in here, oops, and we actually checked it, 8 plus 5 I know is 13. So does -3 equal 13? No, it doesn't. So I could say, oops, I made a mistake somewhere. So I could go back and find out where that mistake was. That being said, let's continue our check with our solution. Same sign or different sign? Different sign. So let's subtract and keep the sign of the higher number, and it checks out. We're going to go ahead and skip number 4 for now. So let's go to the next page. So same idea. So now we have the variable minus some value equals 18. Well, same thing. Line down your equal sign. Cover up the variable with your finger. What's the sign on the 9? It's negative. So the inverse is positive. That's right. So we'll add 9 to both sides because what we do to one side, we do to the other. Our additive inverses will cancel out. 18 plus 9 is 27. And so we have our solution. Here we go. Line down your equal sign. Cover up the variable with your finger. Actually do it. What do we have to get rid of? -1. What's the inverse? +1. So we're going to add that 1 to both sides. 6 plus 1 is 7. Equal sign comes down. The variable comes down, and our additive inverses cancel out to 0. So we have our solution. We'll rewrite our original equation. We will substitute our solution, and we'll check what is 7 minus 1. It's 6. So we're all set here. Let's try again. Line down our equal sign. Cover up the variable term with your finger. We have -2/3, right? This is really our 1, so we could rewrite this as r minus 2/3 equals 4. Cover up the variable term. What's the inverse of -2/3? +2/3. Equal sign stays. We're going to add that 2/3 to both sides. Our additive inverses will cancel out. Our variable will come down. What's 4 plus 2/3? Exactly, 4 2/3. This is our solution. And let's do our check. R minus 2/3 equals 4. It will use parentheses to substitute in our solution. 4 2/3 minus 2/3 is just 4. Right. You try number 7 on your own. We'll skip number 8 and head down here to example 3. Write the word sentence as an equation, then solve. The sum, remember that was a parentheses word from our translating expressions notes, and it meant add of a number. Remember when it says a number, it really means a variable. G and 5 is, what does is mean? Equals 21. So the translation, the sum of a number G, so sum of a number G and -5 is 21. So there's our number sentence. Now notice we have that double sign. We're going to want to rewrite that with one sign. So plus or minus we know is minus. And now we're ready to solve. Line down our equal sign. Cover up the variable term. Add the 5 to both sides. Our additive inverses will cancel out. And G equals 26 as our solution. And finally, number 2 here, 6 less than a number Q is -8. Remember, less than means to subtract and switch the order of the terms. Again, a number means a variable, and is means equals. So if we're switching the order with subtraction, it says 6 first, so 6 will come behind the subtraction, and our variable will be first equals -8. So over here, Q minus 6 equals -8. Cover up the variable. The inverse of -6 is +6. Our variable term comes down. Our additive inverses cancel out. Different sign, subtract, keep the sign of the higher number. And Q equals -2. Now I want you to go to your journal and complete page 56, numbers 1, 3, 5, and 7. Again, this is in your journal, your red workbook, 1, 3, 5, and 7. Have a good day.